that little bit of funk brilliance that you just heard wasn't even in the original version of that song. Sly took a version of it to a club to see what kind of reaction it would get. And he didn't like what he saw, so he went back in the studio and added that end bit, that funk breakdown with he and Freddie and Larry singing na 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 na. And he said that became like an engine booster that made the whole song take off. And it does. I love that part. But it just goes to show the kind of care that Sly put into his records that he was making back then. And the reason I know this little factoid is because I've just finished reading Sly's memoir, Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself. I read it on Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy that I can show you, but I'll put the cover to it on the screen. It's really a fun read. I plowed through it. I just thought it was fascinating. And supposedly the audiobook version has some unreleased music as well. He goes into depth about the thinking that he put into some of his most famous songs and in arranging them. And that's the topic of this video, is Sly's arranging techniques. And we'll just barely be scratching the surface with this because he had a whole lot. But he studied music in college, and he mentions one of his teachers was a Mr. Froelich, who was distressed when Sly left college early. I left college early too. You get anxious to get out into the world, you know. And he said, "Don't worry, Mr. Froelich. You wait. I'm gonna make it big, and I'm gonna send a limousine for you filled with women." And then he said later that he actually did send a limousine for Mr. Froelich, but he forgot to fill it with women. So I don't know if Mr. Froelich was disappointed by that. But one thing that he was introduced to through that teacher was the books of Walter Piston. And Walter Piston was a 20th century composer and educator. He taught at Harvard. One of his star pupils was Leonard Bernstein. But he wrote 4 books. There was music theory, counterpoint, harmony, and orchestration. And those books are still being used as textbooks today. I remember when I took counterpoint, the textbook was Walter Piston's counterpoint. And so I had all 4 of those books. And he mentions I'll read from his own writing. He said, "A dance to the music showed me that simplicity could reach the largest number of ears. Life showed how we were improving as a band, getting quicker and smarter. Past performance is no guarantee of future results, but I didn't want to ignore it either. And I went into those 4th album sessions with Walter Piston's books. I had studied them with Mr. Froelich, and I took them up again." Here's a little example of counterpoint that Sly learned. I love that bit. It's just brilliant. That must have been taken a lot of work to get that right in the studio, but it's just so much fun. The main arranging technique that I want to talk about that Sly used, and I don't know if he learned this in college or if he picked it up in church. He was first exposed to music, as a kid in church. But this technique is very simple, and it's been in music forever. You can find it in African music. You can find it in medieval chants, that monks would sing. And Sly put it to use in a lot of different ways. And it's a big $2 word that I'll put on the screen, hocketing. And hocketing is the technique of taking a melody or a rhythm and passing it from one instrument to another, or from one voice to another. In some of the medieval chants, they would have a melody where there'd be no space between the notes, and one singer would take over from the other, and it would just be one continuous sound, and that would be impossible for one person to sing because you have to take a breath now and again, right? But Hocketing was simple. The way Sly used it was to introduce the band and dance to the music. And he had so many good singers in the band that they could, sing their own parts. And he really used it in Hot Fun in the Summertime. I mean, that song is 2.5 minutes of sheer genius, and you cannot listen to that and remain in a bad mood. I mean, it's just so much fun, but the melody gets passed among all the band, and I cloud nine when I want to, and then Freddie comes in with Out of School. Larry Graham says County Fair in the Countryside, and then Sly, everything is cool. Sly was cool. And so that's essentially Hocketing. It's just passing, right? In classical music, it's an orchestration technique, and it might be a melodic, a melody that starts with the first phrase in the clarinet, and the second phrase is passed to oboe, and then it gets passed to the bassoon, and et cetera, et cetera. But it can be used for rhythms as well. And the most brilliant thing that Sly ever did, in my opinion, well, not the most brilliant, but one of my favorites, is the rhythm arrangement of his song In Time from Fresh, 1973. And that's the song I want to break down and take a close look at, because it's just so funky. But the Hocketing is, this time, goes to the instruments in the rhythm section and gets passed around and gets mixed up with the horns, and it's just insane. Sly says in the book that Miles Davis dug that tune, and he tried to get his band to recreate it, and they couldn't do it. I'm sure somebody. I thought about recreating it, but then I thought there's no point. It's never going to be as cool. I mean, there's a niche of people on YouTube that like to recreate pop records, but so what? What's the point? But here's what Sly said. Sly said, Fresh started off with In Time. It's one of my favorite songs, funky as hell. I got the organ part in my mind, then the guitar part, and I was working with the Rhythm King still. That was an early drum machine. And I programmed beats. Other groups might do that as a guide for the live drummer, but I added Andy right on top of the programmed beats, split time between mechanical and human versions. I sat with him, taught him the part like I heard it, and then let him loose to play it. And Andy Newmark was the drummer, and he's talked in interviews about how Sly came up with that beat and taught him how to do it, and because it's such a complex rhythm, he said it took him a while to get it. But he's a great drummer. Here's a clip of another great drummer who learned the beat, and you can see what's involved with it. So let's watch a little of that.
By the making and the tasting of disaster and time. You get faster. Every bit is a waste, as if you have to procrastinate. So
what I did rather than recreate it, is I took in time and I ran it through some stem separating software, which is fun to play with. It's not perfect. It kind of, I mean, it's amazing that it does what it does. You can separate any song into 4 different stems, and it'll give you the drums, the bass, the vocals, and then a 4th track just called other instruments. And it's not perfect. I mean, for one thing, on the bass, it put some of the bass into the other instruments track because it's often labeled as artificial intelligence, but it needs a little more intelligence because the bass line, he's playing a very complex part, but he's hitting that low F note and then embellishing that up a couple of octaves, and so some of his bass line gets the software put it in the other instruments trap. But we'll listen to that. Listen to just the drums and the bass for a minute. And it's not even the whole bass line because some of it got put into the other instruments part. But this is how they sound together, just isolated. Now, take a listen to the other instruments track. Before you do it, imagine you can hear every chord and riff has been divvied up, turned into like a jigsaw puzzle. To me, this is like deconstructed funk. It's like a Picasso Cubist painting where you're looking at the same subject from all kind of different angles. Because what normally would be, say, these 3 chords, just listen to this. That would be no problem just to have all that played on the organ. But Sly said, all right, you take that, and then you take that, and he could divvy it up. And if you listen to the song in headphones, they're bouncing around, and they're panned slightly left and right. And it's super cool. And now here's the whole track without the vocals. It's just too funky. It's so intricate and it's so cool. And it must have been incredibly hard to pull off because they just, they got the Rhythm King drum machine, but there's no sequencers, and it's just like, okay, you play it, and then you play that, and it must have been difficult, to say the least. But it's just, I never get bored with it. And then finally, the last thing I want to say for this video is people don't talk enough about Sly's voice. He's just astounding. His voice to me is like as expressive as a tenor saxophone. It can go whisper soft to screaming and everything in between. And listen to just Sly's voice, just the vocals in general. You hear the background vocals in there too, on the last bit of the song.
I'm 2 years too long away. I'm 2 words to get it straight. In time, you see an answer. In time, and that ain't nothing. I'm a dancer. Oh, 2 years, long wait. Oh, 2 words, I get it straight. Ah, yes, yes, yes. 2 years, long wait. Yeah. 2 words, I get it straight. In time, 2 years.
And he just, his singing is like a horn. It's just so amazing. I mean, you hear that, and no wonder Miles Davis dug what he was doing, you know? And he talks about being influenced by Ray Charles, and you can hear that. But man, what a amazing singer. Just fantastic. So that's a look at some of Sly's arranging techniques. Thanks for watching, and as always, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. If you have, thank you. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, okay? You, subscribe. All right, adios.